Well, welcome back to First Things First. Undisputed is coming up at 9:30 sharp. Jenny, wonderful to see you as always. What do you guys have on the docket today?
You too, Sarah. Good morning. Coming up on Undisputed, are you guys surprised by Zeke's reaction to Jerry Jones? And is the rest of the NBA rookie class down on Zion? Plus, James Harrison and Mark Schlereth are in studio with us. Undisputed coming up next. Sarah, back to you and the guys.
Thank you, Jenny. All right, time for us now to go viral. Reigning Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard will look to bring his new Clippers team their first ever NBA title. But the Claws enjoying some R&R this offseason and letting his hair down, quite literally, with this video surfacing of Kawhi golfing and showcasing his new hairstyle.
Wow.
I like it. That's what happens when you go to LA.
I like that.
You know, Chris.
Is he what? Is
You
Afro?
go out to LA and you get a little
Afro?
loose with your hair.
That would
Free?
be, I would love to see him with the
Is that how y'all doing it? Really? Yeah.
That's surprising. We've
Broussard's
never
not
seen
taking
him
ownership
without the
of,
cornrows. Now, I had my Afro days back in the 70s, but that's over.
You let that go.
I let that go.
I think that.
But I
think that's for the best, though.
Most people let the cornrows
You
go.
can do that when you deliver a championship to the Toronto Raptors.
He wears his hair however he wants. I would like to see the Afro, though. Like that.
You never know.
Get Zeke the money that he wants and the guarantees long term. With the running back position, you know that it's a short shelf life in terms of getting top end production. So Ezekiel Elliott has a lot of leverage right now because the Cowboys are in the middle of a championship window. I mean, with Jerry Jones, you know that what he wants more than anything right now is to have a championship, and Zeke is the best player on that team. So Zeke on the field gives the Cowboys the best chance at being able to accomplish the ultimate goal. That's why I think Zeke is probably a little bit upset about this because he understands his worth, what he means to this team, what he means to Dak Prescott and the rest of that offense. And if you don't have him on the field, it's going to be hard to win. That's why I think Zeke took issue with how Jerry Jones commented on it, because Jerry is handling Zeke a lot differently than he's handling Coop and Dak.
Well, that's part of it as well. It's the joke, one thing. But as you said, I mean, everything we've heard about Zeke, for the most part, has been, well, you can win a rushing title. You don't need a league-leading rusher to win a Super Bowl, even though all of Jerry's Super Bowls came with a league-leading rusher, Emmitt Smith. Okay, he said, well, we don't want to set the market, Stephen Jones says, you know, for a running back. You know, all these, you hear talk about analytics, almost implying, well, he's not quite as good as everybody thinks. And then when he talks about Dak Prescott, who is not the level of quarterback that Zeke is as a running back, you hear he definitely deserves to be paid in the top tier of quarterback. So I think all of those things, in addition to the joke, are what are bothering Zeke. And look, I don't think Jerry Jones minds Zeke feeling disrespected because this is a negotiation. And furthermore, I think Jerry feels disrespected as well. I'm not saying there's, you know, irreconcilable differences between the two and something that once they get the deal done that will linger. But I'm saying Jerry Jones has to be like, dude, I stuck by you. I fought the league with all your off-the-field transgressions. I have been there for you as much as anybody. And this is how you repay me? He also probably thinking, you got 2 years left. Haven't we said, now he might be lying, but haven't we said we're going to take care of you next summer and you go ahead and pull this when we have a chance to win a Super Bowl? So I think Jerry feels disrespected as well. And so I don't think he minds tweaking Zeke and getting Zeke a bit upset.
And CB, to that point, you remember earlier this offseason, Stephen Jones talked about the 3 guys that they wanted to get under contract and mentioned that Ezekiel Elliott, yeah, we're going to take care of him the next couple of years. He's not necessarily the priority. I think that's what Zeke and his representation got from that Stephen Jones interview that he did down there in Dallas. And so when you hear that as a running back, it makes you want to have a little more urgency about getting the security that you're looking for, because there's no guarantee that on the other side of this thing, once Jerry Jones gets the ultimate goal, which is a championship, there's no guarantee that they're going to pay Zeke, because they still have a 5th-year option after this year, and they could franchise him. And you mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, like the running back position, we've seen guys fall off a cliff quickly. Yep. It happened with Todd Gurley at the end of last season. It happened with DeMarco Murray a couple of years ago, which is why the Dallas Cowboys decided to let him walk. He went to Philadelphia, and he just was not the same running back. So I look at this situation from Zeke's standpoint, and I'm saying to myself, understanding where he's at and where he fits with the Cowboys' hopes of trying to win a championship, I get why he's holding out and he's trying to force Jerry and Stephen Jones' hands. It makes sense. I don't think this is something that they anticipated in terms of him holding out, but I think the Cowboys would be penny wise and dollar foolish to let this bleed over into the regular season.
Well, so with that being said, and you've said you anticipate it may bleed into the regular season, but right now, who do you think has the leverage?
Zeke does have some leverage, no doubt, because he is their best player and their offense is so built around him. However, I would go with the Cowboys right now because there are analytics that show, as great as Zeke is, I think he's the best running back in the league, that he's not one of the better red zone running backs. You know, so there are things they can point to think he's not as good. I think they're looking at the Todd Gurley contract, which Zeke wants at least that. And they're saying, as I'm saying, that was a mistake. I'm glad for Gurley that he got paid, and I hope Zeke gets paid. But these next 4 years with Todd Gurley, we just had Torrey Holt on, and he's talking about Darrell Henderson and the other running backs helping out Todd Gurley. That's fine from a team standpoint, but I just gave this dude $15 million, $14 million a year. I need you to be the bell cow, and he can't be that anymore. At least that's what it looks like. So I think Dallas is looking at that. And if I'm Jerry Jones, I'm willing to start the season without Zeke. And if we don't look good, we can't run the ball. I think we can beat the Giants even without him. And even if we do beat him but can't run the football, Tony Pollard can't carry the ball like, you know, to the extent that Zeke did and the other guys. Then I go ahead and I pay Zeke what he needs. Certainly, if I lose that game against the Giants, I'm paying him what he needs, just like I did Emmitt Smith in '93. But if they start the season and the running game looks good, the new offense with Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, and the pre-snap motion, and giving Dak a little more freedom to throw down the field, if they're all looking good without Zeke, now I think Jerry Jones has the leverage, and he alluded to that a week or so ago that, look, regular season is when we're going to find this out. It could come toward us, or it could go towards Zeke. So I do think he's willing to wait and see.
Well, the if is a big if when you're talking about the rest of those guys on that team looking good without Ezekiel Elliott. I think we've got enough of a sample size, 3 years, to know what that team is with Zeke and what they are without Zeke. We saw the real-life experiment of Dak Prescott without Ezekiel Elliott back in 2017 when he served that 6-game suspension. You're talking about a team that played 500 ball and a quarterback that had more turnovers than he did touchdowns. So if you're talking about investing upwards of $34 million a year in a Dak Prescott contract extension, you might want to make sure you get the homeowner's insurance when you buy the house and have 21 in the backfield, because you're not going to get the best version of Dak without Ezekiel Elliott. So to me, that's why I say it's penny wise and dollar foolish not paying Ezekiel Elliott, because when he gets paid, he's going to be the highest paid running back in the National Football League.
Let me ask you this. Do you put any stock in the fact that they were 3-4 with Zeke last year before Amari gets there?
Well, listen,
I think they're looking at that and saying, we know Zeke's great, but we were 3-4 until we got Amari.
I think that's more so a reflection of the lack of weapons on the outside of that offense. I mean, when you got Tavon Austin and you got Allen Hurns, there's nobody that the defense has to respect as a threat. They're stacking the box to try to stop Ezekiel Elliott, and they're still going to do that with number 21 in the backfield. The only difference is when you have Amari Cooper, that receiver that can be dynamic outside of the numbers, the defense has to respect that, and it makes the picture at the line of scrimmage for Dak Prescott a whole lot clearer in terms of the play that the offense should get into. So, yeah, I think Ezekiel Elliott is the engine for that entire offense. Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones have put all the pieces in place. Their scout, Will McClay, has done a great job of assembling all this talent. But in order to make it all go, you need number 21. I don't think they should play any games with this and let this get into the regular season.
All right, let's get to Antonio Brown. After GM Mike Mayock's ultimatum, apparently AB is all in as the wideout returns, not letting go of the helmet situation, reportedly filing a new grievance with the league office. So, Broussard, is most of the AB drama over, or has it only just begun?
It's not over. There's no way it's over. I mean, if it once the helmet, we thought it was over with the feet. Right? The feet are healing, everything's good, and then we find out it's the helmet. You know, you can't say, well, once they get on the field, they start winning. No, because last year they were winning a fairly good amount in Pittsburgh, and he got upset that Juju Smith-Schuster was the offensive MVP. The Facebook Live, wasn't that after a playoff game? You know, with the Facebook Live? Yeah. I mean, so winning is not going to solve this stuff either. This is who Antonio Brown is. And I like what Torrey Holt said earlier. Helmet We talking about a helmet? we talking about a helmet? I mean, come on. I hope he gets his helmet. I know he's filed the grievance. But if you don't, man, be at practice until your grievance is settled, working with a new helmet in case you don't get the one that you want.
Well, I think it's important to be there because you're building toward getting ready for the regular season. That's what the preseason is about. And there's going to be a lot made of the relationship between Derek Carr and Antonio Brown. And as an organization, you want that marriage to have every opportunity to work out. If Antonio Brown is missing time because of the whole helmet situation, that doesn't necessarily get things off on the right foot. So I think it's important that he took the step to actually get there. Now, I'm hoping as we get closer to the regular season, Antonio Brown puts this distraction behind him. He picks a lid and he goes out there and does what they brought him there to do, which is be a highly productive wide receiver.
How much of Gruden's success with the Raiders hinges on what happens with AB?
A ton. One, I think, is how you're going to set your culture. You're trying to set a culture there. If other players are looking at AB get away with this stuff, that can hinder you in setting up your culture. And then he hasn't won a lot in the last 7 years. His last 7 years of coaching, 2 playoff appearances, 0 wins. We know he won his Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's players. Not to take it away from Gruden, but since he's been building his own teams, hasn't had that same success.
Well, here's what I'll say. I think that veteran NFL players understand that everybody's going to get treated fairly, but not everybody's going to be treated equally. AB is a special talent. We all recognize that. But the distractions ultimately end up detracting from the team. And I think it's important for AB to kind of put this to the side once the regular season gets here.
30 choices for a helmet, right? That's what we got?
Yeah. Only 30. It's only 30.
We're going to be talking about it tomorrow, I have a feeling. That's it for us. We'll be back in the morning at 6:30 Eastern. Stay right here, though. Undisputed starts now.